Welcome back to Undiagnosed Baddie, my daily 10-minute podcast where I talk about any and everything y'all look. So I'm trying to build a set out here, okay? And it's like, what can I do to make sure that that's even better already, right? All that extra stuff is not in here. Y'all, so I got a little sign. I'm trying to figure out what we gonna do with it. Am I gonna leave it how it is? So I did it in paper form first just to see how it was gonna be. And I like it. I like it. It's not the vinyl one, but it works. And I'm trying to figure out how I want it. Like, I want to be a part of it. And this is also making sure that I stand out from it. So, of course, the black tea, you already know how we do. We get down, I wear the same thing every day. But it is a couple days officially into quarter two. And I just wanted to talk about goals and stuff like that. And you guys know that I have been using a particular topic to start the show, and it just makes it so much easier for me. So today's topic is driving is a life skill, and that's what ties into quarter two goals, y'all. And why is that? So, I can take 17 things and all bring it back together to one. Now, we had listed some goals for the year. And we all know that everybody has their own goals for each quarter. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and her whole thing was she's not going to force her children to learn how to drive because they'll Uber. And I said, well, that's not really feasible, right? Like that, where in what world does that make sense? That if I had an emergency, you had an emergency, we have a car, we have people in the house that can get us in the car faster than the ambulance can get to us, right? Or in any circumstance, it could be any emergency situation. Something happens to the person that's driving, or you're out somewhere, you're out somewhere without, adults that can critically think in emergency situations. What happens when you can't drive? Like, depending on an Uber or a Lyft is not always where it's at. So I am so happy to say that I was able to get through to her with one of her kids. And that baby now has their learner's permit. But it is a life skill to me. And more so because I know how to. Also, knowing how to drive different types of vehicles. So I know how to drive a manual car. And that's not what's out here for the most part. It's always automatic. But I really still think that it's important to be able to drive both. But we'll stop while we're ahead and truly say that driving is a life skill. If you do not know how to drive as an adult, baby, it's just like, what the fuck are we doing here, right? So I am trying to make sure, and I battle with this. I only have one kid. So I have to make sure that my child is self-sufficient in every single stage, facet, level of life. And being able to know how to drive is one of those things. Like, we're in 2026, guys. This is not something where we don't have rights, where we can't drive, right? Again, living in Upper Marlboro, my kid used to sit on my lap and drive. Of course, I would work the gas and brake, but she learned how to drive the wheel. That's how a lot of us learn how to drive, right? Getting on somebody's lap, letting us learn how to, drive the car, whip the vehicle, and just maneuver in that way. Driving is a life skill. So hopefully, the rest of her children will follow the path of her oldest child and get a learner's permit and license when they are old enough to do so. I just, I never argue with parents, with my friends, with peers on how to raise your children. I'm not saying that the way I think is the only way that it should be done. However, there again are life skills. So y'all know I have a question every episode. What is a life skill that you think every child being raised should know, right? So we can, of course, cooking, driving, And what else? What other life skill should people know? We can go down the list. Like, I can get very intricate with this. Like, my kid has a CPR certification. So, knowing how to help people when they're choking, I think that's a life skill. Um, it's just so many things. And once you start to become of age, when you start to become an adult, and you look around and you see that a lot of people don't have basic life skills, and I'm talking about just minimal survival skills, right? Some and even way back in our head and way back in the day, that's why they used to put you in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of America. That's why the boys knew how to tie knots. That's why, well, I won't just say boys. You tie knots, you get a patch. You learn how to start a fire, you get a patch. You learn how to sew, you get a patch. There are just things that are basic life skills that people should know. Tourniquets, life skill. It's a life skill to know how to stop someone from bleeding out. I think that I was more so trained on having basic life skills because my mom was military and police. My godmom, EMT. So of course we have it right where it's just like you got to know how to do things because this is basically our our life what is it? This is what they do. Their career. This is their career. They're not necessarily their life path, but it's their career. So because I know, and being in those environments also helped with critical thinking. And when people say that critical thinking is let's pause that. People be like common sense, common sense, common sense. And when you sit back and think about it, what is the old saying? Common sense ain't so common because common sense literally is like critical thinking. Everybody can't critically think. Everybody can't think right. I'm about to go on a tangent real quick. Follow me now. Like I'm preparing for cookouts this summer. I'm preparing for being in certain environments this summer. So the stuff that's in my Amazon cart, and if we even take it a step further, right? I went somewhere with someone before we went to the beach. So I have all of this stuff. This is why I needed a third bedroom to keep all of my stuff. And I've got this stuff and the other person was like, oh, I forgot X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, here it is. Boom. And she was like, oh, this, and that. And I was like, well, I have the waterproof version. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Boom. And she's just like, I don't know why I didn't think to bring any of this stuff. Thank you for bringing this stuff. And it was cool, right? Everything was cool. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, because I was taught to be over prepared. When you're over prepared, when you're overdressed, when you're overly ready, I don't want to say what can go wrong, but when things do go wrong, not even wrong, when you need something, it's there. Being prepared, being fucking prepared. So for instance, in my cart, I wish I could just but we're not really editing these. We're just, once, the only thing I'm doing is like throwing a topic up if I find it on Threads. But, I have, because I know when you start going to fairgrounds, when you start being outside, when you do all of the things that's coming up, there's porta potties, there's public bathrooms. So what do I have? I have the disposable toilet seat covers for porta potties. I have the disposable urinals. Right? I have the things to keep the mosquitoes away. And that doesn't mean that if you my folks and you watching this, it shouldn't be in your cart too. But it's just those certain things. And in my mind, it's just like, why the fuck wouldn't you think about that? Where are we going to use the bathroom? So why wouldn't you think about the preparedness of where we use the bathroom? Well, where are we going to do this? So why wouldn't you think about the preparedness to have all of the necessities to be able to do the things in a clean way, right? Life skills coincide with critical thinking, coincide with being prepared. And I think where we are right now in 2026, because we're at war, you can't be too prepared with anything because you never know what's going to happen. So y'all Stay prepared in everything that you do in life. Quarter two is going to be amazing to us. See y'all next episode.